Hey guys, it's Necro and welcome back to the channel. So today I kind of want to talk a little bit about gear fear and Escape from Tarkov. As a newer player myself, I have found that I really don't like using expensive gear a lot of the time. Even though it's more effective, I'm just so afraid to lose it. And this is, I've been working on something recently, working on a few things recently on ways to kind of help myself get over that. And I kind of want to help others with that as well, as I know it's a big thing that keeps a lot of people from actually advancing into either, further levels in the game because they're afraid of losing gears or they just don't play, or people just never get started because they're so afraid of the idea of investing into themselves and then losing it all. So this is going to be an extremely informal video. I'm going to do this all in one take, and I'm just going to let a raid play in the background from one of my streams recently and just kind of discuss it. This is the type of video that I plan on making a lot in the future as well. Just kind of super laid back, just kind of talking about different aspects of the game, all the while gameplay is kind of just playing in the background while we discuss these things. So let's discuss first what gear fear is. Gear fear is the idea of being afraid of losing the things that you spend your time and in-game money on to earn, put together, find, so on and so forth. Throughout Escape from Tarkov, you can find items of all sorts all over the place, including fully modded weapons, whether it's a player you take down or something you just happen to find on a rack on a wall somewhere, like in Interchange Kiba Arms, for example. We have gear fear because the chance of survival in any one raid is low. That's just the way it is in Escape from Tarkov. You can be taken out instantly by any one thing at any one moment, whether you know someone's watching you or not. So a couple of ways of how I've been fighting this myself. The first thing, I find a weapon that I can rely on that is budget or cheap, something that is modded or not modded at all, maybe modded lightly, just enough to be effective. Recently, I've been relying on the RFB with light modifications. I have a nice RFB that I put together that costs right around 102,000 rubles, which really isn't bad for the effectiveness of the weapon, especially considering M80 rounds are highly effective at this point in the wipe, but also they're generally effective even against really well-geared players. You get one good headshot in or a few well-placed chest level shots and it will drop pretty much anybody at any range. In fact, with this, I'll include a little bit of a small part of the video here, just kind of highlighting what my RFB looks like. I'll show you guys. It's very, very effective and it's not expensive at all. Another example of something similar is the M1A. If you don't like the RFB, you can put together an M1A for about the same price. All you need is just a sight on that. It's really great without anything else. Just a sight, and the M1A is highly effective. There's a bunch of other weapons you can put together for low cost as well, including under 100,000 rubles in general, but that's just what my go-to is right now. Another way to kind of combat this gear fear I found is to buy multiple of the same loadouts. I'll buy a bunch of the same headsets, helmets, armors, ammo, magazines alongside the weapons with or without modifications, and just kind of realize that these aren't going to last forever, right? So I just kind of take them into a raid. If I survive the raid, maybe I'll find someone else's weapon and I'll end up, just kind of taking that home with me and utilizing that later in place of my current loadout, or I will just kind of do my tasks, get in, take out a couple scavs. Maybe if I encounter a player, I'll fight them and then just kind of go on about my day. If I die, however, then I can just look at my stash and there's a few more of the same loadout just sitting there. It's like, when you kind of see the cost and investment, as long as you're getting tasks done, then it's really not a loss because you're still putting yourself forward. You're still gaining that experience. You're getting better at the game because you're putting yourself out there. You're learning the maps. You're learning where loot is. You're fighting scavs at better effectiveness, especially when you start using the same weapons a lot. So on and so forth. To kind of highlight again the idea of using things that you find in raid. If you find, say if you happen to run into Rashala at gas station in customs, you're just going through there and you happen to run into him and you take out him and all of his guards. His guards will often drop things like AK-103s, 105s. I found him with a MDR before. I do believe I've seen one of his guards use a very well kitted ADAR with 995 rounds. These are all things that are highly effective and you can just kind of get out of raid and then use those yourself instead of selling them off. Because at the same time that it is nice to kind of see that number of rubles or whatever, whatever currency in your stash go up, it's also nice to know that it's not going to go down by spending money on more stuff for the time being. So that's something that I do often myself. If I happen to find like a boss or another player, I take them out, I'll use their gear and just kind of spin that to another raid. I consider it like a free run. Now, with all of this said, of course, you have to keep in mind that while it is easy to just kind of take this gear and spin it for another run yourself, make sure that you're not leaving guns just sitting in your stash, collecting dust, doing nothing. It's one thing if it's, something that you just feel you don't want to spend the ammo on to make it most effective, so you wait a little while for that. But it's another thing to just not use a gun such as the AKMN that we got as the gift from Battlestate Games this year. A lot of people haven't used that yet because they're afraid of just, dying with it. So they just kind of let it sit there in their stash, collecting dust, doing nothing. I was guilty of this for a while myself, but then I just said, you know what, dude, I'm just going to use it. I ended up going a few raids with it, use some BP rounds, and we got some things done with it. But I did ultimately die and lose it, as is the way of Escape from Tarkov. You need to stop having gear sentimentality. You need to stop holding on to things that are only tools to further your actual character level. Just remember that as time goes on, you'll be the one delivering instant headshots to other players, whether it's from a 1 million ruble weapon or a 20,000 ruble weapon. At the end of the day, the weapon's not so much important as it is just understanding where people are at the right time and then taking advantage of that moment. So, quick recap. Buy multiple of the same loadouts, so that way you can get used to it. Don't be afraid to lose it. Just use it. Understand that Tarkov gives and Tarkov takes. Be sure to use weapons that you find on other players that were taken out by yourself or others, as well as scabs sometimes have great stuff, and the bosses and their guards hold really good stuff a lot of the time as well. And of course, the last thing, do not let things just sit in your stash. Stash space is valuable, especially when it comes to all the tasks where you have to collect specific items, and you can get a really great head start, on all sorts of tasks early on in the game, but they all take up big space as well. So don't just let it sit there. Use it up. Spend the money on the good ammo so that way you can just kind of utilize it. Hell, you never know. Maybe you'll end up doing some great stuff in that next raid. And that wraps up the video, guys. Thank you so much for hearing me out ranting on about gear fear. I hope you can learn something from this from, the perspective of a very inexperienced Escape from Tarkov player. Expect more videos of this style in the near future, as well as full raids. And of course, if you would like to catch us live, you can click on some of the links in the description below. I stream on both Facebook and Twitch. You can catch me on Facebook every Monday and Thursday, and then you can catch me on Twitch every other day of the week except Sunday. Thank you guys so much once again, and I'll see you in the next one.